Hi, everybody. This is Mr. Gerard. Today, I would like to share with you how we can actually tackle questions that are related to inverse and direct proportion all at the same time. Right, so I have actually pulled out maybe two common type of questions that you might see. And I would like to also explain how we can actually solve it in an easier manner, right? So let's just have a look at the two questions first, and then together there are also answers provided. But let's just see how we can actually solve this type of questions in an easier way, right? So let's just take a look. Now, have a look at the first one, and let me just read that to you. A contractor was awarded a tender to construct 4 houses within 180 days. He hired 24 men for the job. After 60 days, he found that they had completed only one house. How many more men should he employ to cover the job within 180 days? All right, so the very first thing we need to understand is, do you understand the question? So when you read this, you probably find that this is actually related to proportions because we have more people, we have more men, and we have actually more houses as well, but we have the days as well. So it's kind of complicated in some ways in the sense that at school, usually we will lay out, like ratios, right? Do you also remember? And then we try to change it accordingly. So in some of the classes, I've taught students to do that because that's what has been taught at school. But there's also another way we can do things in the sense that I would want the students to think about using a constant instead. So what exactly do I mean by that? So do you all still remember if let's say you are supposed to connect two variables together? I mean, let's say for instance, let me just write it here. Y is directly proportional to x squared, let's say for instance, right? We can only connect them with an equation provided that there is a k, something like this, whereby k is a constant, obviously, of course, and then we can now actually just put it here, right? So the question is this. Why am I mentioning this to you? Because you can do that too for these type of questions. But to know how to do this type of questions, or rather to be able to use what we call the k factor or the k constant for this, you need to actually define which ones of the variables are directly proportional, which ones are indirectly proportional. So assuming that you have actually understood the questions, right? So we will need to know how we can actually do it in a new way. So let's have a look at this. We have got houses, definitely. So I will use H as the house, okay? And then we have got the days, and we have got the man. So what can we do actually if we want to actually form an equations? So the first thing is, if you notice, we have got this given. All right, so 4 houses within 180 days. So technically, um, this is the task that you must complete 4 houses within 180 days. Okay, so the question is, of course, the parameters given 24 men, right? And this 24 men, what happened is within the 60 days, they had completed only one house. So guys, girls, I want you to take a look at the so-called the keywords or the key numbers that I've actually underlined. These three are the variables that we can put in to actually find our K. Probably you might be asking, then how can it be done? So the very interesting thing is this. We need to know who is directly proportional, who are inversely proportional. So what if I put man over here, and then sorry, I'm using the mouse to actually write, so kind of a little bit clumsy over here. But let me just do that again, okay? So just imagine if I have got man over here, and let's connect them out with equations, okay? But before we can do that, we need to know, okay, We have days as well. So is it more men, more days, or is it more men, less days? So if you think about it, okay, they are actually inversely proportional. Because if I have more men, I'll take less days, right? So yeah, you will put the D below. Okay, right. So we learned that before. I mean, if you treat this as men versus days, of course, they are inversely proportional. What about the house, or rather the houses? So if you have more men, you can build more houses, right? Okay, so they are directly proportional somehow. Okay, and let me just put in the K. That is where it's supposed to be. All right, and then of course I can just say that K being a constant. So this is what it's supposed to be. So you might be asking me, Jer, is this possible? Because you have been taught writing K as a constant for only direct proportion or indirect proportion, but never both. Yes, you can actually do that if you notice, because if they are directly proportional with a k factor, and then they are indirect proportional with another k factor, so you can actually think about actually the division of the two k factor, which are constants, that will produce a constant output as well. So we will take this k as the constant output instead, right? So now this is what I have actually obtained, and basically that is the equation. So now we'll put in the value to find k. Right, so if the man that we have know is actually 24, and then of course we keep k as it is, the house is just 1. So let me just put a multiplication of 1. All right, and then of course the number of days I know is actually 60 days. Okay, so now I'm almost ready to find my value of k. So now let's just try to see what it's supposed to be. So that will be 24 times 60. Right, so if you multiply 60 by 24, all right, you should be getting 1,440, right? So of course you can use a calculator, obviously. So now, having found that, right? So now I can actually put that into the equation now as a value k being determined, which is actually supposed to be just like this. Okay, and then I'll put in the h, I'll put in the days. Right, so with this, I'm ready to actually answer their questions, right? So you notice that the question asks, how many more men should he employ to complete the job within 180 days? So if you think about it, we had already lost 60 days, or we had already used up 60 days. So the remaining number of days, to be very truthful, is only 120. All right, so let's just put it in first. And then how many more men? Okay, so we need to find the man first. Okay, so just find first. After that, we will subtract because the keyword is more men, right? So let's just find how many men first for the remaining days. Okay, so we know this is 140, well, or rather 1140. And then the house is okay, because one house has already been constructed, so there are still 3 of them to go. So this is how it works. You will times 3. And then let's just find that out first. Okay, let me just do a very quick division. So basically, I'll cancel the 0. All right, I'll take this away. And this is actually a 12. So 12 times 3 is actually 36. So technically, if he is supposed to complete in time, right, according to the specifications, there should be 36 men over there. But the question didn't just ask for that. They asked how many more men. So just assume that, I mean, not assuming, sorry, they used to have 24 men, right? But you have to have at least 36 of them. So that means the extra men would have to be 36 minus 24, which is actually equals to 12. 12 more men, okay? So that's how it works over here. And this is easily done. Can you all see? So of course, if you're really that confused by the what we have always been doing at school, is like we try to lay out in a ratio format, whereby we try to change the proportions to 2 by 2 because there are 3 of them, and you felt a little bit overwhelmed by that. You might want to consider the way I'm doing it over here, right? Because this is actually very obvious. This is just solving by equations, putting k as a constant, right? So this is one way to do that. And I would like to share what if you see questions like this, and is it still possible to use the k factor or the k constant to actually solve this? Have a look at this with me, please. Okay, let me just put this up. All right, let me just put that up and to share with you what this is about. So for the second questions, you see this. It takes 20 men to renovate 6 flats in 21 days, right? So how many extra men need to be employed if the job is to be completed in 14 days? How many flats can 48 men working for 35 days complete? And then the last part is, of course, M men take 3 days to complete F flats. Express D in terms of M and F. So of course, you may want to look at the provided solutions over here. I mean, of course, but I would like to share what if we stick to the K factor or the K constant to actually do this questions. Is it possible? Let's see. All right. So now given this, let's just write this down first. 20, let's just highlight that first. Of course, you have 20 men, you have got 6 flats, you have 21 days, right? If you would like to do that, you might need to know who is inversely proportional, who is directly proportional, right? So let's just understand that first, okay? We'll use M definitely for man, okay? So let's put in our equations. If you have more men, you can build more flats, you can renovate more flats. So it's going to be F over here, right? And of course, the number of days will definitely reduce. So this is going to be D, and the K is going to be here as well, right? So, but by doing this, in fact, I can actually do C straight away. But let's just do it as a whole, I guess. So now let's put in the value 20 men. All right. So basically, this is 20. I mean, of course, K is a constant, and you have to really mention that, okay? But it's not easy to write on the computer, so I'll just leave it as it is. And then your K still being there. F is the 6 over here. And then your D is actually 21. All right, so this is what is going to be happening. So I'm going to now multiply this with 20 by 21, which is actually 420. And I'm going to divide it by 6 because that's supposed to be what K is about. So technically, if you use a calculator, K is actually equivalent to 70. With this, if I rewrite that, this is going to be M equals to 70 F over D. And incidentally, if you are going to solve that, I mean, since I'm on these equations already, I can just cross multiply or shift here and there. D is equivalent to just 70 F over M. Okay, so let me just clear that for my part C first. Okay, so yep, this is actually done. And obviously, I can actually do so much more, putting in the parameters as well to solve for A and B. Right, so I'm not going to dwell into that, but to just share with you that you can do that, in fact, in exams, provided you know which variables are directly proportional, which variables are inversely proportional, and that should be enough, right, to actually solve that. Also, when you see this type of questions, it's good to pay attention to the word like more man, right? So if it's going to be more man, we would have to be doing one more step, in fact, and that will be to subtract, right? So we have to be very careful. And if you notice that the very first question that we did, right, there was actually a need to actually offset the days that were already used up. So we have to be very careful on that, right? So yeah, this is just my sharing about how things can be done regarding the direct and indirect or inversely proportional for the questions given like that. Okay, so I'll provide more as time goes by. Do enjoy yourself. Do enjoy your learning. Have a good time. I'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.